Aaron had been watching my struggle with his dad, I was about to give up. I had spent hours trying to convince him that there were no other ways to get the information I needed, that it was now or never. He was getting irritated, and his father was starting to worry about us. But then I remembered something that had happened a few weeks earlier. I had been driving home late one night. I was late, but not so late that I should have been driving. My cell phone rang. It was Aaron, calling me from his house. "Aaron, what are you doing there?" I asked. "I was thinking of taking my dad to the hospital." "I'm on my way," I said. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," he replied, "but I'm not feeling too well." "What's wrong? Are you sick?" "It's my stomach," he said. "I think I ate something bad." I felt the hair on the back of my neck stand up. "Are you going to be okay? You want me to come over and get you?" No, he replied. "I'll call you later." I hung up. My instincts told me to keep moving. Something was wrong. Something was wrong with his dad. When I got there, his dad had taken a turn for the worse. His condition was deteriorating quickly, and I knew we had only a short time to get things done. "Aaron, we have to get him to a hospital," I said. "We can't go now," he replied. "They won't be able to help him if he goes into an emergency room." "But this is serious," I replied. "He could die." "Then he should have thought about that before he drank himself into oblivion." "We have to do something." "We already did. We called for help." I was desperate, but I couldn't force him to get help for his dad. There wasn't enough time. And, as much as I hated to admit it, I couldn't force myself to make him leave his dad, knowing he could die while I was gone. "If it comes down to it," I said, "I'll drive to a hospital, and you can take him there." "It's a waste of time," he said. "You don't have to go with me," I replied. "You can stay here, but at least call someone. I know you have a cell phone, but you need to get your dad to a hospital. It's the right thing to do." I didn't know if I could force him to get help for his dad or not, but I knew one thing for sure. If he didn't make that call, we'd both regret it. I went home and tried to forget the whole thing. When I woke up the next morning, I had no idea what had happened to Aaron's dad. But then I saw his dad at work. He wasn't in good shape. He had lost a lot of weight, and he looked much older than he had the last time I had seen him. Aaron wasn't with him that day, and when he came into work a few days later, I asked him what was wrong with his dad. "Nothing," he replied. "He's fine. He just doesn't feel like coming into work." "But I saw him at work last week," I said. "He was fine." "I know," Aaron replied, "but he doesn't feel up to coming in. That's all." A couple of weeks later, his dad was back in the hospital, this time for good. He died soon after, and he left a huge mess for his son to clean up. The house was a mess, and all the bills had been piling up. Aaron couldn't find any work for a while. "I should have taken my dad to the hospital when I had the chance," he said. "It's all my fault." I didn't want to push him. I didn't want him to have to relive it again, and I wanted him to move past it as fast as possible. But I knew he was hurting inside, and I knew he had to find a way to forgive himself for not doing more. "It's not your fault," I said. "You did what you could. It's not your responsibility to save him." "It should have been me," he said. "It should have been me who got him help." He wouldn't let it go. He kept telling me that he had let his dad down, that he had failed him and let him die. It took him a while, but he finally realized that it wasn't his fault. He finally understood that it had been an accident. His dad had made the decision for himself, and it didn't matter how hard Aaron had tried. It still didn't stop him from blaming himself for not being there for his dad sooner. But there is one thing that really stuck with me after that night, that my son couldn't make a choice for himself. He couldn't make a decision for his own life because he was always thinking about how things would affect other people. That night changed something in my mind. It reminded me of the difference between making a decision based on selfish motives and making a decision based on true caring and compassion. The only reason my son didn't get his father help in time was because he had other concerns weighing on his mind. He wanted to make sure that his dad was okay and that his family wouldn't be affected by the financial consequences of his decision. He wanted to make sure that his mother wouldn't have to struggle with the bills while she took care of her husband and their kids. I hadn't even thought about those things. If I had only cared about what would happen to me, to my car, and if I had only cared about me, I never would have let him drive my car without permission. That's why I walk. It's because every decision we make in life affects the lives of others. When we make a decision, we should be thinking about how it affects everyone else, not just ourselves. We should always be thinking about how our actions affect the world around us, and then make decisions that benefit not only ourselves, but those around us as well. The next day, I found a copy of The Power of Now in the bookstore and decided to read it cover to cover. I was excited to read it for a second time, and it didn't disappoint. In the book, Eckhart Tolle explains that we create our own reality by our thoughts and beliefs. By changing the way we think and see the world, we can change our reality, which in turn can change our life and the lives of those around us. I realized that my son had been right about one thing. Every choice we make has a ripple effect on others. If we want to affect the world around us for good, then we need to think about how we're affecting those around us every step of the way. So when we make a decision, we need to ask ourselves if it is really a selfish decision or if it benefits everyone around us in some way. When we are ready to make a change, we need to think about the people who will be affected by it. Will it benefit them? How? If we want to change the world, we first need to change ourselves. We need to think about how everything we do affects those around us. And so now, whenever I see someone struggling with life's problems, I can tell them, you can only change your life by changing yourself. If you want to change the world around you, start by changing yourself first and then let go of all the old ways of thinking that are holding you back. As the saying goes, you can't save the world from the outside in. You can only save it from the inside out.